Dehancer. Probably one of the most professional film emulation plugins on the market today. Dehancer is a product used by many professionals in the industry for both photo and video to emulate the look of film. Dehancer is so big, it's in music videos, it's in commercials, it's in a lot of the media that we consume. People everywhere are using this product to emulate film. All it takes is a quick glance at the state of our economy to understand why. Silver prices are super volatile. They're going up, they're going down, which also means that film prices go up, go down, silver being a key ingredient. And then the other factor that I don't think really anyone talks about is people like me and other people on the internet, TikTok, YouTube. You know, we recommend a camera to you guys that we love to shoot, that we bought, that we found, whatever. You then go onto eBay, that same camera that was probably, I don't know, let's say it was $200. After that video drops, up 10%. Getting into film in 2026 is difficult, it's expensive. I know I don't have the budget to shoot film all the time. I go onto different sets and I bring a hybrid of digital and film to capture the moment, because really, I can't shoot loads and loads of film. It's just not economical. It's probably been years now. I've been looking and scouring the market for a plugin, an effect, a LUT that will accurately emulate film so I don't have to go broke. And that's where Dehancer comes into the picture. Now I want to be transparent. Dehancer did reach out to me. They gave me their suite of products to try. They gave me the keys to the castle per se, and I got to, experiment and spend some time in these apps. However, that does not mean Dehancer has any influence over what I'm about to say. Now, spoil what I think about this product. I like it a lot. I'm a big fan. I'm going to keep using it. It's going to be on this video. It's going to be on future videos. I like Dehancer so much so that I think you guys should get Dehancer too. I have a 10% discount code. You can use that on any Dehancer product on their website. It means a lot to the channel. It will go a long way. And most importantly, that means I can make more videos that aren't sponsored. That way, not every video I make is an ad. I don't want that to be true. However, I like the product so much so that I can endorse it and I can recommend it. That does not mean I won't be critical of Dehancer. I have some critiques. Regardless, I'm going to share my unfiltered thoughts. You guys are going to see results and you can make your own informed decision on this product. But I'm just going to share some of my experience with it and overall, what do I think about Dehancer? Now, before I go any further, if you're unfamiliar with Dehancer, I know I've been saying that name a lot, and if you have no familiarity with their company, it's probably really confusing. They offer a effects plugin, a editing plugin for many different apps, too many to name. They have a mobile app, they have a desktop app coming soon. And within this effect and this plugin, there are a myriad of LUTs and presets that are all intended to emulate specific film stocks. Fuji, Externa, CineStill, etc., etc. Just about any film stock you can think of, they have it. And what I think is really cool about Dehancer and what really separates it from everybody else is it's very research-based. They've spent the time really figuring out these film stocks, doing tons of tests, figuring out how it behaves in different conditions, and modeling their effects chains, their plugins, to be an accurate representation of those film stocks and allowing you to apply it to just about any footage you can think of. Now I know that sounds like a big claim to make, film in itself is an organic process. There's the famous Spielberg quote where he says, digital is a science where film is a miracle. There's a lot of truth in that. Film in itself behaves very different than digital, and recreating film is incredibly hard. Let's just say I was a little skeptical of some of these claims, so I've tried to find the best examples I could This first one is from a shoot I did for Outside Lines Tennis. Now what I did on this shoot was I brought a roll of Color Plus 200. I also shot digital photos as well because I knew I was only going to get 36 exposures. I wanted to back up, so I brought film and digital. I kind of figured this would be the perfect test. It's the same environment. It's the same scene, the same clothing, same textures, same skin tones. So how close can I get this digital image to look like film? I would say I got pretty close. I did this all in their new Dehancer Desktop app. It's in beta, so there are a couple kinks and stuff that they got to work through. These tools are going to be the same in DaVinci, they're going to be the same in Premiere, etc., etc. As you'll see, I think I got really close. I think my biggest struggles in this photo is the sharpening. I wish Dehancer had added a feature called lab sharpening or something to that effect, because I know that the lab, when scanning this image, applied sharpening. So it's kind of a different process in sharpening. I know what I could have done is exported out this image and then brought it into Lightroom or somewhere equivalent and added sharpening later. However, I think because Dehancer has created such good adjustment layers, I think this is an effect that they could add in that could be really similar to what a Frontier or Noritsu could provide in a lab scan. And that also kind of brings up another good point. What it seems like to me is that all these effects that they're applying refer back to a more analog process. You know, there's a print paper effect. There are printer light adjustments, which I would say lean more towards an analog process of development. And a lot of the film we get back today have gone through some sort of digital processing. And I think that's the disconnect here, is that we are trying to emulate a process that really is a minority of how these analog mediums are developed today. Now that's minor, and honestly I think the effects as they are work perfect and fine, but to that argument, something like a lab sharpen feature would be really nice. Okay, so I'm curious what you think. How close did I get? I spent a good amount of time, maybe an hour or so, on this image trying to make it look like film, side by side. What do you think? Did I get close? Are the colors similar? How's the grain structure? Does that feel the same? I will also throw on screen this shot that I did recently on 16mm with Grace. Also earlier that same day, I took some digital photos, side by side, 16mm Vision 3 50D versus the Dehancer emulated image. Also, I will say, very close. I think these are really, really passable results. I think the differences are exacerbated because I have the real thing side by side with them. Now, the image that I'm showing that I shot a couple weeks ago that truly is 16mm footage, I color graded that. In a future video, I want to talk about color grading film, real film. So then the question is, does that taint the experiment between true proper 16mm and a film emulation if you're going to color grade the 16mm? And I would say yes and no. So first of all, the Dehancer image, I think the grain structure is perfect. I do wish there were more adjustments in the Overscan feature, such as the distance between the frame above and the frame below. In an 8mm scan, usually sometimes those are right on top of each other and they bleed into each other. These are all nitpicky. Personally, I don't like the Overscan look, but really what I was disappointed in, and I know I color graded the real 16mm, I wish there were more color adjustments besides these more global adjustments. You can change different tonal ranges, like your highlights, your midtones, your shadows, but that seems to only bring up the warmth or coolness of those ranges. What I really would have wanted was like a hue select tool or maybe some color wheels. I think that would have just given me a little more control over the image to make it look like something else. Again, You can go into another program and get those features. However, I wish they were just baked into that Dehancer Desktop app. The lack of those features, I wish I had them so that I could make those images look just a little bit closer to my source reference. So that brings up a good point. In both my 16mm recreation and my 35mm photo recreation, the end product is so far from the preset. It takes a lot of editing to make an image look like what you want it to look like. Because of so much variation in how we scan and how we shoot film, it's not going to be apples to apples, and it's going to be a little bit apples to oranges. So if you're thinking of getting Dehancer and you want it to be this one-click solution, I don't know if that's totally true, but I also don't think that's going to be true anywhere. So if that is our baseline, I think Dehancer kills it because they have so many good tools to make an image look like what you want it to look like, that if you concede that no LUT will ever be a true recreation of a film stock, then I think this is a great product for you. If you don't believe that's true, you might be disappointed. And you'd be like, what? These LUTs don't look anything like the other Kodak Gold things I've shot in the past. And my argument is I don't think any Kodak Gold LUT would actually look like Kodak Gold. So then I ask, who is Dehancer really for? And I came up with 3 people in the photo and video industry that I think would benefit most from not only Dehancer, but also this new Dehancer Desktop app. Back when I was in college, a big thing that every DP wanted to do was, like, the day after we shot something, you were posting stills online. And what I learned from a lot of the DPs I worked with was that they were going into Lightroom and color grading it there. They weren't processing this footage and grading it in DaVinci. They were doing a pseudo grade before their real grade. Now I think that's customer number 1 when it comes to Dehancer. Because let's say you use Dehancer in your final workflow. You get access to all those same tools, but you're able to adjust just the still without having to go through your entire workflow just yet. And then you could save that as a LUT and bring it in later. That I do think is a really helpful use case for this project. So I would say the continuity of Dehancer has a lot of benefit to a lot of DPs out there and the overall workflow of an entire production, not just post, but from production to post. A second customer that would really benefit is the one like me and the example I gave where you're shooting both digital and film at the same time and your client wants the film look, but you can't shoot exclusively film. So you need some way of making your digital images look like film. And I think in my experience, I got so close to what that film looked like. And hopefully Dehancer can add a cool feature like lab sharpening to make it even better. I think it's a great way to economically shoot things with both film and digital. And I would say lastly, the number 1 customer for a Dehancer product is someone who wants the film look, but has struggled to achieve it in other programs. Dehancer has really built some really cool effects and some of the best tools in the game when it comes to film breath, gate weave, bloom, halation, grain, print stocks, all these cool things that you cannot achieve in other apps. And if you did want to, it would take a lot of technical know-how. You would have to be a DaVinci wizard or a Photoshop wizard to really understand it. So I think Dehancer is the clear answer. And honestly, that is a big enough selling point for me to continue using Dehancer. Now, there are some things that I wish Dehancer could improve upon. I know they're always coming out with some cool updates. And I know the desktop app is in beta, but I do really wish there was more attention to a photo workflow and treating it as a replacement of something like Lightroom or Photoshop. Right now, it feels like I still need an external software to truly manipulate the image however I want. But I have no doubt that Dehancer will continue to improve the desktop app, and hopefully in the future it's something we debate whether or not to keep Adobe or go in on Dehancer. I think there is that potential. I think it's good enough right now where that's a consideration. I do think it's close. I don't think it's quite there yet, but I do think they're on the right track, and hopefully soon that is a real debate we're having, either on this channel or others. But yeah, that's been my experience with Dehancer. I am pleasantly surprised with what they got going on. It's a very capable program with so many cool tools and adjustments. You get shockingly close to film and analog looks. I think if that's something you are chasing after, you really want that film look, it is far and away the best thing I've tried. And I kind of think you should too. Like I said, I do have a 10% discount code. If you go down below into the description, it's Hamule10. There's a link. You can get 10% off any Dehancer product. That's mobile, that's desktop, that's plugins. And like I said, that is the best way for you to support this channel. It allows me to make the content that you want to see. So I would really appreciate it if you use that code Hamule10. And with that, I will see you all next week.